If you're wondering what your favorite tech stocks are going to do as well as the market this week, then this video is for you. We have some really huge news to talk about, and it includes exemptions on tariffs for electronics, computers, and smartphones, which is really going to help Apple and tech giants like Google, Meta, and Microsoft. We're going to look at the VIX. I expect this is going to create a pretty bullish run this week. We're also going to look at NVDA and Tesla. We're going to gauge the fear index. We're going to go over the VIX, but something else I want to talk about, and that is the bond markets are up like crazy. The move that has happened in the bond market is the most it's ever moved in a week or two in over 30 or 40 years. Now, this is significant in a way because of this move. It is most likely that we're going to get a federal intervention. The thing to think about with the Feds bailing out the current situation and interest rate cuts is they really want to see fear spread amongst all groups: bonds, treasuries, futures, stock market. We're not quite in that position, but it's really looking probable. And at JP Morgan, they've actually recently announced that it's very likely that the Feds are going to cut interest rates and they're going to have the Fed put come back in and bail the current situation out. So we've got that on the horizon as well. Let's take a look at these different stocks we're going to look at for this week. We're going to go over some news. I want to explain to you guys what Trump has recently done for Apple. And I've been explaining this to my students for weeks. There are certain ways to gauge this market. If this is kind of confusing you and you missed my most recent webinar and you're really looking to understand this and grow your portfolio and learn, I would love to help you guys. You can join my Discord at any time. You get full access to a training course, live coaching calls multiple times per week, and you'll also get one-on-one coaching and all my trade alerts. You guys can sign up at any time at investwithcorey.com. The link's in the information box below. And it's what drives me every single day to help others just like yourself. I really enjoy helping others make money. My goal is to get you where you need to be so you don't need me anymore. This way you can live the life that you ultimately deserve. Electronics imported to the United States will be exempt from President Trump's reciprocal tariffs, according to U.S. Customs and Border Protection notice posted on Friday. Smartphones, computer monitors, and various electronic parts are among the exempted products. The exemption applies to products entering the United States or removed from warehouses as early as April 5th, according to the notice. The exemption, which comes after the Trump administration on Wednesday imposed a minimum tariff at 145% on Chinese goods to the United States, does not include the 20% tariff on Chinese goods for the country's role in the fentanyl trade. The tariff exemption would have a major impact on tech giants like Apple, which make iPhones and other products in China. Roughly 90% of Apple's iPhone production and assembly is based in China, according to Wedbush Securities estimates. Analysts at Wedbush on Saturday called the tariff exclusion the best possible news for tech investors. Big tech firms like NVIDIA, Apple, Microsoft, and a broader tech industry can breathe a huge sigh of relief this weekend into Monday, Wedbush said in a statement. A big step forward for U.S. tech to get these three exemptions and the most bullish news we could have heard this weekend. And now on to the next step in negotiations on the broader China tariff war, which will take a number of months at least. NVIDIA and Microsoft declined to comment to CNN. Apple did not immediately respond to a request comment. And the reason why this is huge is Counterpoint Research, a firm that monitors global smartphone shipments, estimated Apple had 6 weeks roughly of inventory in the United States. Once that supply runs out, prices would have been expected to go up. The White House said that Trump will continue to urge tech companies to move production to the United States, but this is a big relief for Apple specifically and tech in general. So first I want to gauge the VIX, which is the volatility index on the S&P. And I want to show you guys some very important things coming up this week, because every week there's something going on in the finance world and in the stock market. And these events, as well as the data that they are representing, are very important to the stock market and as well as the movement and the likelihood of a certain or specific direction. First, we have retail sales month over month, which is pretty important, and that's going to be on Wednesday. And even more important, we also have building permits and housing starts, which is going to be on Thursday. Housing starts is essentially a metric that gauges all brand new housing projects, meaning new developments that are going up. Typically, this gauges the strength of an economy because the more new homes that are going up means a stronger economy. technically. And so if we're increasing the amount of new homes we're building, that is a good thing for the real estate market, as it's kind of a lagging indicator. Auto insurance, housing starts, building permits, there's somewhat lagging indicators compared to the other indicators like PMI data, like manufacturing and PMI servicing, as well as GDP and PPI. These are a little bit quicker. They're month to month, year over year. However, housing starts, insurances, these are more of a lagging indicator, but the housing starts, definitely something that is going to have some effect and decent effect on the market this week. And because of everything going on previously in previous weeks, it could have a fairly large effect, especially if we beat the expectation on housing starts. That will be very good. Also, retail sales is expected to be up. And if it meets or beats, that will be huge on Wednesday. Now, not only that, Trump also is put an exemption on electronics, computer equipment, monitors, and smartphones. I feel this is going to create a pretty big bullish run this week. And I feel like opening bell Monday is going to be very big. After you see this video, keep an eye on futures market that will open up this evening because they open up Sunday evenings. Keep an eye on the NASDAQ and the mini S&P 500. This is going to be critical, and it's likely that they will gap up due to this exemption for Apple smartphones, electronics, and computer equipment. As we can see, the VIX has been working its way in a downtrend. Now, it's not a heavy downtrend, but we can see that it's definitely a downtrend. And when we look at the SPY on the same 4-hour chart, we can see, although not very big, we can see that the SPY is in its own uptrend. Not quite an uptrend, more consolidating, but you can see that it's still working its way in an uptrend. We're getting there, and it's the exact opposite of the VIX. So it's kind of a turning point right now. And I think that the exemption on these tariffs for smartphones, computer devices, electronics is going to help tech big time this week. I think that's going to help Apple a lot. It's also going to help Meta, Microsoft, Google, as well as Tesla to some degree, which means if they're helped, Amazon will be helped because they'll be able to sell more stuff because they sell a lot of electronics, which means Apple and Amazon will do well, especially Monday morning opening bell. And they're the biggest drivers besides Meta and Microsoft of the SPY. So it is highly likely that the SPY is going to gap up. And it's really hard to gauge exact prices. I don't like doing that, but I got a funny feeling that into Monday, it's going to be gapping up in the 550 range or 560 quite easily, maybe even higher because of this exemption and because of this news. And this market is oversold as it is. So any good news would just be any excuse in the world needed for the stocks to go up. It's definitely a much needed catalyst, especially considering the SPY has hung around 520 to 540 even without this catalyst. And now when you add that in there, I really feel that SPY is primed to move up into the 570, 560 range this week. And it could happen as quickly as Monday alone, but we will see. Looking at Microsoft, we can see that it's been very strong by comparison to SPY or Apple, which pretty much Apple's the reason SPY is headed down. But with this exemption, SPY is going to go up because Apple's going to go up. So is Amazon, very likely the case. And Microsoft will sympathize. So it's possible, very, very probable that Microsoft could gap up overnight in the early AM hours going into Monday morning and through Monday as well. And we could see 400 to 410 on Microsoft this week. It's hard to gauge that exact price, but it's probably going to be met with some serious resistance around 395 and 400, but we shall see. But I think we're going to rise on Microsoft quite a bit on this news. There'll be a definite point in time where there'll be some sell-offs. And if the data is not good on Wednesday, Thursday, it could put a wrench in this bullish trend, which could be short-lived because of that. Looking at Meta, it's pretty much the same thing. It's going to sympathize with this bullish news. And now all of the stock market's down. So the likelihood that Meta would sympathize with a very bullish Donald Trump announcement with exemptions on smartphones and it helping Apple and SPY and Amazon, it'll also help Meta like it would Microsoft. So it's highly likely Meta and Microsoft will both run this week to some degree. I really expect to fill this gap. So I would say that Meta could push high fives, low sixes. Like we could get 580, 590, maybe higher. I think it's realistic that we could get 580 on Meta this week, especially if the news on Wednesday and Thursday is also good. And if the Feds hint at a rate cut or a bailout or a Fed put of any sort, then this will be even more bullish. Another tech stock that I love to look at, which is going to be a global leader, most likely, almost for sure, in quantum computing with their new Willow, is Google. And a lot of people talk about Rigetti computing, but I prefer Google, much stronger than Rigetti for quantum computing. And again, likely with these exemptions, Google is highly likely and probable to have a nice run up. And it's likely that Google will make its way up into 160, 165, maybe a little higher, but there's a lot of resistance up in the 160, 165. So we have to see how this turnaround is. We can see this is a complete break of structure, and now we have good news to fuel it. So we have to hope that data is also good this week. Another thing I want to point out real quick is that Meta also has its lawsuit going on. I don't see this in the news anywhere here, but it is coming up Monday or Tuesday, but they still have a price target of $650. So it's still a bargain nonetheless. Looking at NVIDIA, it's the same thing. Computers, electronics, smartphones, exemptions from the Trump administration is going to be very, very bullish for NVIDIA. In fact, we can already see NVIDIA is breaking through this downtrend. If Monday NVIDIA runs, which it's likely to do with the rest of the tech stocks because of this news, then we will see NVIDIA come up. And if it sells off, comes back down and resists this downtrend, then we officially have broken out of the downtrend for NVIDIA. And with the data this week, with building permits, housing starts, and consumer spending being good, all of these things are going to help fuel the market sentiment this week, and it could be a very strong week indeed. NVIDIA and Microsoft have the strongest downtrend reversal going on. You can see right here, Microsoft is actually broken out of this downtrend. Meta has actually done the same thing. This would have been the downtrend, and they've now broken below it, but it's right at that support level. So as long as Meta stays in the support range, it's also broken out of this downtrend. So on SPY, we can see it also broke the downtrend. We start up here, and if we would have gauged this downtrend right here, it would have broken it with this run last Wednesday. If we gauge it now, it's still in a downtrend. So we could have argued if we had drawn that line Wednesday that it broke above it and has stayed above it, but the long, broader scope of this entire downtrend, you can see starting from right here, we are still in a downtrend, but it looks like we are in the middle of a wedge to break out of this on the SPY. NVIDIA, Meta, Microsoft, Google, pretty much the exact same. Let's take a look at Apple and see exactly what Apple is doing. Apple has been beaten down, and I expect that this exemption is going to help them out. You can see this is a pretty mighty downtrend on Apple. If we were to go to the 1 hour chart, you can see that it's resisting right now. If Apple was to break out like this, and then there'll be some selling and come back down and resist and go back up. This is pretty much what I'm looking for in all of these stocks that are likely to break out of the downtrend this week with the data that we're hoping is good, but also the exemption news and how people feel about this over the weekend going into Monday. Now, this technical analysis that I'm showing you guys is something that is very important to learn and gauge the market in addition to sentiment and all of the news that I've been explaining to you guys and how the market responds. It's all psychological. It's something that I teach my students consistently in Discord. If you are looking to make consistent income and grow your portfolio and learn to trade and invest the right way, maybe you're losing money, maybe you're just getting started, maybe you just want to retire and live the life you ultimately deserve to live. I would love to help you achieve that. Just like my students, as you can see on the screen, you guys can sign up for my Discord access, full training course, one-on-one coaching, multiple coaching calls. You guys can sign up for my Discord access at any time. The link is in the information box below. You will get access to my Discord, my training course, all of my trades to follow what I do, and you'll have access to 2 live coaching calls where I will teach you exactly like I'm doing right now in detail. All of my students do very well, and I would love to help you the same. And I'm committed to helping others just like you so that you can go off on your own and do what you want to do with your life and enjoy it. Taking a look at Tesla here, you can see yet again, just like the other stocks, it's trying to break out of this downtrend, which happened on Wednesday. And there's a lot of uncertainty, but it seems like it's holding support, just like NVIDIA, just like Meta, Microsoft, Apple, SPY, Google, very similar situation. And with the exemption and this week's data, we have the potential to have a much stronger week. Monday and Tuesday would likely be a lot stronger anyway, but as long as data on Wednesday and Thursday is good, it will continue going into Friday. It looks like we're in for a pretty nice treat this week, quite possibly because of this good news, and Tesla looks like it's poised to make a nice run up into the 280, 290 range this week. So let's see what happens. I think ultimately this week could be a very strong week with lots of buying opportunities and to dollar cost average your current positions. This is likely to be a pretty exciting week compared to the last few weeks or even really last few months, although last Wednesday was pretty exciting because the market recovered back about 30 to 40% of its losses, depending on the stock that you're trading. And it looks like this week it goes where I think it will. We very well could recover most of the losses we've had. We probably could be closer to 60, 70% recovery or more. This week looks pretty good from what I'm seeing and the data that's coming out, as well as the exemptions in this news. If we also get good data, like I said many times, Wednesday and Thursday, and maybe even possibly some tariff deals, this will be huge for the market. I hope you guys make lots of money this week in the market. I will see all of you guys on the next video or upload and in the Discord very soon. Right, fam? Take care of yourselves.